Have you ever noticed that some of the most painful moments in life are not caused by what is happening right now, but by what your mind keeps telling you about what might happen tomorrow? Think about that for a moment. The event itself may last a few minutes, a few hours, or a few days, yet the suffering can continue for years because the mind keeps replaying it, analyzing it, resisting it, and turning it into part of your identity. Many people wake up every morning carrying invisible burdens. They carry regrets from the past, fears about the future, worries about their health, concerns about money, stress about family, and endless thoughts about whether life is going according to plan. After the age of 50, these concerns often become even stronger. The body begins to change, energy may not be what it once was. Recovery takes longer. Friends and family members may face health challenges. Retirement questions begin to appear. Many men find themselves asking deeper questions than ever before. Am I making the most of my life? What if my health gets worse? What if I run out of time? What if I never become the person I wanted to be? These questions are understandable. But today I want to share something that has the power to completely transform how you experience them. It is a realization so simple that the mind often overlooks it. Yet once you truly see it, much of your unnecessary suffering begins to dissolve. The realization is this: your suffering is not coming from this moment. It is coming from your resistance to this moment. Most people spend their lives believing that if they can change enough external circumstances, they will finally find peace. They think peace is waiting in the future. They think happiness is hidden behind the next achievement, the next purchase, the next promotion, the next relationship, or the next solution to a problem. But have you noticed what usually happens? You solve one problem and another appears. You achieve one goal and immediately create a new one. You reach one destination and then begin worrying about the next destination. The mind is never satisfied because its job is to keep searching. It always says, just one more thing, then you will be happy. Yet peace does not arrive, years pass, decades pass, life passes. And many people never realize that what they were searching for was available all along. The present moment is all you ever truly have. That may sound obvious, but most people rarely experience it directly. They are physically here, but mentally somewhere else. They are eating dinner while thinking about work. They are walking outside, while replaying yesterday's conversation. They are sitting with loved ones while worrying about next month. Their body is present, but their attention is trapped in psychological time. Psychological time is different from practical time. Practical time helps you schedule appointments, plan your day, and achieve goals. It is useful. Psychological time is the endless mental habit of living through memories and imagined futures. It is the voice that says, I should have done things differently. What if something bad happens? I'm not where I should be. I'll be happy when. This constant mental movement creates enormous suffering. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Every regret is a stone, every fear is a stone, every resentment is a stone, every worry is a stone. Eventually the weight becomes exhausting. Yet most people do not realize they are carrying it because they have worn it for so long. The strange thing is that much of that weight exists only in thought. Right now, in this exact moment, are you okay? Not next year. Not next month, not tomorrow. Right now. If you stop reading ahead and simply become aware of this moment, you may notice something surprising. There is a sense of aliveness here. Your breathing is happening. Your heart is beating. Life is unfolding. And for this moment, everything is manageable. The mind immediately wants to object. It wants to remind you of unfinished tasks. It wants to tell you about future responsibilities. It wants to list every reason you should be worried. But those thoughts are appearing now. The future itself is not appearing. Only thoughts about it are. This distinction is incredibly important. Most suffering comes from confusing thoughts with reality. A thought says something terrible might happen next year. The body reacts as if it is happening now. Stress hormones increase, muscles tighten, anxiety grows. Yet the imagined event is not occurring, only the thought is occurring. When you begin observing this process, a new dimension of awareness opens within you. You start realizing that you are not every thought that enters your mind. Thoughts come and go. They appear, they disappear, they change constantly. If you were your thoughts, then your identity would change every few seconds. But something deeper remains. Something notices the thoughts, something observes the emotions, something witnesses the entire experience. That witnessing presence is what many people overlook. It is quiet, it does not shout, it does not demand attention, yet it has been here your entire life. When you were a child, it was here. When you were 20, it was here. When you were 40, it was here. And if you are over 50 now, it is still here. Your body has changed, your circumstances have changed, your beliefs may have changed. But the awareness that knows these changes remains. This realization becomes especially valuable as we grow older. Many men struggle because they identify entirely with physical strength, productivity, or external success. When these things begin to change, fear appears. The mind says, "You are losing something." But what if the deepest part of who you are cannot be lost? What if your value does not depend on youth? What if your peace does not depend on circumstances? What if your identity is far greater than the roles you play? These questions begin opening the door to freedom. This does not mean ignoring practical responsibilities. Taking care of your health remains important. Regular movement remains important. Quality sleep remains important. Nutritious food remains important. Strong relationships remain important. In fact, when you become more present, you often take better care of these things. For men over 50, one of the most powerful habits is learning to create moments of stillness throughout the day. Not because you are trying to escape life, but because you are learning to reconnect with life. When you wake up in the morning, before checking your phone, sit quietly for a few moments. Feel your breathing. Notice the sunlight entering the room, listen to the sounds around you. Allow yourself to arrive fully in the day. This simple practice can dramatically change your mental state. Another powerful time is during a walk. Instead of constantly thinking, occasionally shift your attention to what you actually see. Notice the trees. Notice the sky. Notice the movement of your body. Notice the sensation of your feet touching the ground. These small moments may seem insignificant, yet they gradually weaken the mind's addiction to constant mental noise. And something remarkable begins happening. You discover that peace was never hidden in the future. It was hidden beneath the noise of constant thinking, the noise of constant resisting, the noise of constantly wishing reality were different than it is. As that noise becomes quieter, a deeper intelligence begins emerging. You become less reactive, less fearful, less controlled by every passing thought. Life still contains challenges, but the suffering surrounding those challenges begins decreasing. You respond more wisely, because you are no longer fighting reality every moment. And this is where the transformation truly begins. Because once you start seeing the difference between life itself and the stories your mind creates about life, a profound shift becomes possible. You begin stepping out of psychological suffering and into a direct experience of being alive. And that changes everything. As this understanding begins to deepen, you may notice something unexpected. The situations in your life may not immediately change, yet your experience of them starts changing dramatically. The same challenges may still exist, the same responsibilities may still be present, the same people may still behave in ways that frustrate you. But something inside you is no longer reacting in the same automatic way. This is because suffering is rarely created by circumstances alone. Two people can face the same event and experience it completely differently. One person may be consumed by stress, resentment, and fear. Another may face the challenge with calmness and clarity. What creates the difference? It is not the event itself. It is the relationship each person has with the event. Most people spend their lives arguing with reality. They mentally fight what has already happened. They resist what is already here. They wish the present moment were different. This constant resistance creates inner tension. Imagine standing in a river and trying to stop the current with your hands. You can struggle, you can push, you can fight, But the water continues flowing. Eventually, exhaustion arrives. Many people live this way mentally. They fight aging, they fight change, they fight uncertainty, they fight the fact that life never unfolds exactly as planned. The more they fight, the more exhausted they become. Acceptance does not mean liking everything. Acceptance does not mean giving up. Acceptance simply means recognizing reality before deciding how to respond to it. If it is raining outside, arguing with the rain does not stop the rain. If your body is changing with age, denying it does not stop the changes. If a difficult situation has occurred, pretending it did not happen does not help. The moment you fully acknowledge what is already here, something powerful happens. Energy that was being wasted on resistance becomes available for intelligent action. This becomes increasingly important after 50, because many men reach a stage where they realize life is not an endless resource. Time becomes more precious, energy becomes more valuable. What once seemed distant suddenly feels closer. Some men respond by becoming anxious. Others become bitter. Others become trapped in regret. They spend years thinking about opportunities they missed. Relationships they should have handled differently. Financial decisions they wish they could change. Words they wish they had never spoken. The mind loves revisiting the past because it believes it can somehow rewrite it. But the past exists only as memory. You can learn from it, you can grow from it, you can gain wisdom from it. But you cannot live there. Every moment spent mentally living in yesterday is a moment not fully lived today. Think about how often people sacrifice the present moment in service of thoughts about the past. A beautiful morning arrives. Instead of experiencing it, they replay an old mistake. A loved one speaks to them. Instead of listening, they are mentally somewhere else. An opportunity appears. Instead of recognizing it, they remain trapped in old stories. The mind says, if only I had done this. If only I had chosen differently. If only things had turned out another way. But life does not move backward. Life moves only now. And there is tremendous freedom in realizing that your future is not created by replaying yesterday. It is created by how present you are today. This presence also transforms the way you think about health. Many men become consumed by fear as they age. Every ache becomes a warning. Every symptom becomes a source of anxiety. Every health article becomes another reason to worry. Of course, taking care of your health matters. Regular checkups matter. Good nutrition matters. Strength training matters. Walking matters. Sleep matters. But fear itself often becomes a hidden source of suffering. Stress affects the body in powerful ways. Chronic worry places tremendous pressure on the nervous system. When the mind constantly imagines worst-case scenarios, the body often reacts as though danger is already present. That is why one of the healthiest habits you can develop is learning how to return to the present moment, not once, not twice. Again and again. Many people believe spiritual awareness is complicated. In reality, it often begins with something very simple. Take one conscious breath, then another. And another. Feel the air entering your body. Feel the air leaving your body. Notice how your attention immediately wants to run somewhere else. That is normal. The mind has spent years practicing distraction. Presence is a different skill. Like building physical strength, you would not expect to walk into a gym once and transform your body. The same principle applies here. Every time you return your attention to this moment, you strengthen awareness. Every time you notice a fearful thought without becoming lost in it, awareness grows. Every time you observe an emotion, without immediately reacting, awareness becomes stronger. Eventually something remarkable begins happening. You stop believing every thought. You stop following every mental story. You stop treating every fear as truth. This creates space. And within that space, wisdom appears. Many people have never experienced this space because their minds are constantly talking. The inner voice never stops. It comments on everything. It judges everything. It compares everything. It worries about everything. Most people assume this voice is who they are. But if you can observe the voice, then the observer cannot be the voice. This realization changes everything. Imagine sitting quietly and listening to the thoughts moving through your mind. Instead of participating in them, simply watch. A thought appears, then another, then another. Notice how they come and go. Notice how none of them stay. Notice how they arise without permission. Notice how they disappear on their own. You begin realizing that thoughts are events happening within awareness. They are not your identity. This understanding becomes especially powerful during difficult periods. Perhaps you face financial uncertainty. Perhaps someone you care about is struggling. Perhaps your body is going through changes. Perhaps you are entering retirement and wondering what comes next. The mind may immediately create stories. What if everything goes wrong? What if I cannot handle this? What if the future is difficult? But when awareness is present, you begin recognizing these as thoughts rather than facts. You no longer give every thought absolute authority. You no longer allow every fear to dictate your emotional state. You see them for what they are, mental activity. And as this happens, a quiet confidence begins emerging. Not confidence based on circumstances. Not confidence based on achievements. Not confidence based on possessions. A deeper confidence. The confidence that comes from knowing there is something within you, untouched by changing conditions. This deeper dimension has been present during every challenge you have ever faced. Think about your life. There were moments when you believed you would never get through something, yet you did. There were problems that seemed overwhelming, yet they passed. There were fears that felt enormous, yet many never happened. Life has carried you through countless experiences, and through all of them, awareness remained. This awareness is not something you create. It is something you recognize. The more you recognize it, the less dependent your peace becomes on external circumstances. This does not mean you stop setting goals. It does not mean you stop improving your life. It does not mean you become passive. It means your happiness is no longer postponed until some future condition is met. Most people unknowingly make a deal with life. They say, I will allow myself to be at peace once everything is perfect. But everything never becomes perfect. There is always another challenge, another responsibility, another uncertainty. If peace depends on perfection, peace never arrives. The great realization is that peace is available now, not because life is perfect, but because your true nature exists, beneath the noise of constant mental resistance. The moment you begin touching that deeper reality, even briefly, you discover something extraordinary. You are not merely surviving life, you are life itself expressing through a human form. And once this begins to be felt, rather than merely understood intellectually, suffering starts losing its grip in ways that once seemed impossible. One of the greatest misunderstandings human beings carry is the belief that freedom will arrive someday in the future. The mind is constantly projecting itself forward. It says, when I solve this problem, then I can relax. Then the problem is solved, and immediately another one takes its place. The promise of future peace keeps moving further away like the horizon. Many men discover this pattern very clearly after 50. Earlier in life there may have been clear goals: building a career, raising a family, buying a home, creating financial stability, achieving certain milestones. For years the mind remains occupied with these objectives. Then one day, perhaps unexpectedly, a question appears: what happens now? You may have accomplished many things, you may have achieved goals that once seemed impossible, yet a strange feeling remains. Something inside still feels incomplete. This often confuses people because they expected achievement to deliver lasting fulfillment. But achievement can only satisfy the mind temporarily. The deeper longing that exists within human beings is not actually for more accomplishments. It is for connection with their true nature. Many people spend decades searching for themselves in external experiences. They search through success, through possessions, through recognition, through status, through constant activity. Yet the more they search outside themselves, the further they seem to move from the peace they seek. Imagine spending your entire life looking for your glasses while they are already sitting on your face. That is what spiritual awakening often feels like. The thing you were searching for was never absent. Your attention was simply directed elsewhere. When people hear this, the mind often becomes frustrated. It wants a method, it wants a formula, it wants steps. But the truth is simpler than the mind expects. The peace you seek is found in the absence of psychological conflict. Not in adding more to yourself, not in becoming someone different, but in recognizing what you already are beneath the constant stream of thought. This recognition can happen in very ordinary moments. Perhaps you are sitting quietly in your garden. Perhaps you are watching the sunrise. Perhaps you are walking alone. Perhaps you are simply breathing deeply after a stressful day. For a brief moment, the mind becomes quiet, and suddenly there is only presence, no problem to solve, no future to worry about, no past to revisit, just awareness itself. Most people experience these moments occasionally, but overlook their significance. The mind quickly returns and says, "That was nice. Now back to worrying." Yet those moments reveal something important. They reveal that peace is your natural state. Stress is not your natural state. Anxiety is not your natural state. Constant mental struggle is not your natural state. These are conditions created by identification with thought. Consider how much energy people spend maintaining their personal story. The mind continuously repeats who you are. Your successes, your failures, your disappointments, your achievements, your fears, your opinions, your history. The story becomes so familiar that it feels like your identity. But if you pay close attention, you will notice that the story is always changing. At 20, your story was different. At 30, it changed. At 40, it changed again. Now, after 50, it may be changing once more. Yet something has remained constant throughout all these changes: the awareness that knows the story. This awareness does not age in the same way the body ages. The body changes, the face changes, energy levels change, life circumstances change, but awareness itself remains remarkably unchanged. Think back to your earliest memories. There was an awareness present then. That same awareness is present now. This realization begins shifting your relationship with aging. Many people fear aging because they believe they are only the body. So every change becomes a threat. Every wrinkle becomes evidence of loss. Every limitation becomes a source of anxiety. But when you begin recognizing the deeper dimension of who you are, aging takes on a different meaning. You still care for your health. You still respect your body. You still exercise, eat well, sleep properly, and maintain healthy habits, but you are no longer terrified by change. You understand that change is part of life itself. The tree changes with the seasons, the weather changes, the landscape changes, everything in nature changes. Human beings often suffer because they expect themselves to be the exception. They want permanence in a world built on impermanence. This impossible demand creates endless frustration. The moment you stop demanding permanence from life, a surprising peace begins emerging. You start appreciating things more deeply. A conversation becomes more meaningful. A walk becomes more beautiful. A simple meal becomes more enjoyable. A quiet morning becomes something precious. Why? Because you are actually present for it. Presence transforms ordinary experiences. Many people spend years waiting for extraordinary moments while completely missing the beauty of ordinary ones. Life is happening now. Not later, not after retirement, not after the next achievement, not after every problem disappears. Now the mind constantly says, "This moment is not enough." Presence says, "This moment is life." There is enormous power in that realization, especially for men who have spent decades carrying responsibility. Many have trained themselves to always focus on the next task, the next goal, the next obligation, the next challenge. Eventually they forget how to simply be. They know how to do, but they no longer know how to be. This imbalance creates exhaustion. The body becomes tired, the mind becomes overwhelmed. Stress accumulates. The nervous system remains activated. Many people think rest means merely stopping physical activity. True rest involves something deeper. It involves releasing psychological burden. You can lie in bed for 8 hours and still feel exhausted if your mind never stops fighting reality. On the other hand, a few minutes of genuine presence can create remarkable renewal. This is why daily stillness becomes so valuable. You do not need complicated practices. You do not need special equipment. You simply need moments where attention returns to the present. For example, when drinking water, fully experience drinking water. When eating, fully experience eating. When walking, fully experience walking. When listening, fully listen. At first, this sounds too simple. The mind wants complexity, because complexity makes it feel important, but transformation often begins through simplicity. The present moment is always simple. The mind is what complicates it. A man may be sitting comfortably in his home, yet mentally, he is fighting 10 imaginary battles. He is arguing with someone who is not there, worrying about events that have not happened, replaying conversations that ended years ago, creating scenarios that may never occur. Physically, he is safe. Mentally, he is at war. This inner conflict becomes so common that people assume it is normal. But normal does not mean necessary. The more conscious you become, the more clearly you see this pattern. You begin noticing how often suffering is self-created. Not intentionally. Not because you want to suffer, but because the mind has developed habits that operate automatically. The beautiful thing about awareness is that it interrupts these habits. The moment you become aware of a thought pattern, you are no longer completely trapped by it. Awareness creates space, and within that space lies freedom. Not freedom from life's challenges, but freedom from unnecessary psychological suffering. Life will still bring change. Life will still bring uncertainty. Life will still bring moments of difficulty. But your relationship with those experiences transforms. You stop resisting every challenge. You stop turning every difficulty into an identity. You stop making every problem part of your personal story. Instead, you begin meeting life directly. And as this happens, a deeper sense of peace starts emerging. Not because the world has changed, but because you have discovered something within yourself that is larger than the world of thoughts, fears, and constant mental noise. And once this discovery begins, even in small moments, you start realizing that the freedom you have been searching for has been quietly waiting beneath the surface of every experience all along. As this deeper awareness grows, you begin noticing something that most people never fully recognize. The mind is constantly trying to create an identity out of suffering. It wants to hold on to problems, because problems help maintain the sense of a separate self. Think about how often people introduce themselves through their struggles. They talk about what happened to them years ago. They talk about who disappointed them. They talk about mistakes they made. They talk about circumstances that hurt them. Without realizing it, these experiences become woven into their identity. The story becomes so familiar that letting go of suffering almost feels like losing part of themselves. This is why many people continue carrying emotional pain long after the original event has ended. The event happened once. The mind repeats it thousands of times. Each repetition strengthens the emotional burden. The body responds as though the event is happening again. Stress increases, tension increases. The nervous system remains trapped in a cycle of psychological suffering. Yet the past no longer exists except as memory. This does not mean the experience was unimportant. It means the suffering continues largely because attention keeps feeding it. Imagine a fire. Without fuel, the fire gradually fades. But if fuel is continuously added, the flames continue burning. Thoughts often act as fuel for emotional suffering. Every time the story is replayed unconsciously, the emotional charge remains active. Awareness changes this process. When awareness is present, you begin seeing thoughts as thoughts rather than absolute reality. You become the observer instead of the prisoner. This does not happen overnight. Years of mental conditioning do not disappear instantly, but each moment of awareness weakens the old patterns. Little by little, freedom grows. Many men discover this most clearly during periods of transition. Retirement approaches, children become adults, careers change, physical abilities evolve, life enters a different chapter. The mind often resists these transitions. It compares the present to the past. It says things were better before, it focuses on what has been lost. Rarely does it focus on what has been gained. Yet every stage of life contains its own gifts. Youth brings energy, middle age often brings responsibility, later years can bring wisdom, perspective, and deeper understanding. But these gifts are only recognized when attention remains present. If the mind is constantly comparing today to yesterday, appreciation disappears. Comparison is one of the mind's favorite activities. It compares your life to someone else's, it compares your current self to your younger self. It compares reality to its expectations, and almost always, comparison creates dissatisfaction. The mind finds reasons why this moment is not enough, why you are not enough, why life should be different. But what happens when comparison stops? For a moment, simply imagine releasing every comparison. Not comparing your body, not comparing your finances, not comparing your achievements, not comparing your appearance, not comparing your progress. Just being here, fully present. Notice the relief that begins to emerge. Much of human suffering comes from measuring life against imaginary standards. Presence ends that measurement. Presence allows life to be experienced directly. This direct experience has tremendous healing power. Modern life constantly pulls attention outward. Screens compete for attention. News competes for attention. Notifications compete for attention. Endless information competes for attention. As a result, many people become disconnected from themselves. They know what everyone else is doing, but they rarely know what is happening within their own consciousness. This disconnection creates subtle exhaustion. The mind never gets a chance to rest. The nervous system remains stimulated. Mental noise becomes the background soundtrack of life. That is why creating moments of silence becomes increasingly important. Silence is not merely the absence of sound. Silence is the space in which awareness becomes more noticeable. Many people are uncomfortable with silence because they immediately encounter their thoughts. But if they stay present, something beautiful begins happening. Beneath the noise exists a profound stillness. A stillness that does not depend on circumstances. A stillness that remains available regardless of what is happening externally. This stillness is not something you create. It is something you discover. It has always been there. The constant activity of the mind simply prevented you from noticing it. Think about the sky. Clouds may come and go. Storms may appear. Winds may blow. Yet the sky itself remains untouched. Awareness is similar. Thoughts come and go. Emotions come and go. Experiences come and go. But awareness remains. The problem arises when people identify entirely with the clouds. They believe every thought. They become every emotion. They lose sight of the vast awareness within which everything appears. The moment you recognize this, suffering begins loosening its grip. You no longer feel compelled to follow every thought. You no longer treat every emotional wave as permanent. You understand that experiences arise and pass. This understanding becomes particularly valuable during difficult times. No human life is free from challenges. Health concerns arise. Relationships change. Unexpected events occur. Loss becomes part of the journey. These realities cannot always be avoided. But suffering increases dramatically when the mind resists what already is. Resistance says, "This should not be happening. This is unfair. I cannot accept this." Acceptance does not mean approval. Acceptance simply means seeing reality clearly. Only then can intelligent action emerge. Imagine driving through dense fog. If you refuse to acknowledge the fog, you cannot navigate it effectively. The first step is seeing conditions exactly as they are. The same principle applies to life. Clarity begins with acceptance, and acceptance creates inner strength. Many people assume strength means forcing their way through life. But true strength often looks very different. True strength includes flexibility. True strength includes awareness. True strength includes the ability to remain present during uncertainty. The strongest tree is not always the most rigid one. During a storm, rigid branches may break. Flexible branches often survive. Human beings are similar. Psychological flexibility creates resilience. Presence creates resilience. Awareness creates resilience. The more present you become, the less life feels like a battle. You stop fighting every change, you stop arguing with reality, you stop demanding certainty from an uncertain world. Instead, you begin trusting life more deeply. Not because you know exactly what will happen, but because you recognize that peace is available regardless of what happens. This realization changes the way you move through each day. Simple moments become meaningful. Ordinary experiences become rich, relationships deepen, health habits become easier to maintain because they arise from awareness rather than fear. For example, when you eat consciously, you naturally make better choices. When you sleep with a calmer mind, recovery improves. When you walk regularly, fully present with your surroundings, both the body and mind benefit. Small daily actions become powerful when performed with awareness. Many people spend years searching for a dramatic breakthrough while overlooking the transformation available in ordinary moments. The present moment is where life unfolds. It is where peace is found. It is where awareness is discovered, and every time you return to it, you strengthen your connection to something far deeper than the thinking mind. Eventually, you begin realizing that the greatest freedom is not controlling every circumstance. The greatest freedom is no longer being controlled by every thought. And when that freedom begins growing within you, suffering gradually loses the foundation upon which it once depended. Now we arrive at the realization that changes everything. It is not merely an idea to understand, it is something to experience directly. Throughout your life, the mind has probably convinced you that peace is somewhere else. It has pointed toward the future, it has pointed toward achievement. It has pointed toward better circumstances. It has pointed toward a version of yourself that does not yet exist. And perhaps for many years you believed it. Most people do. The mind always promises that fulfillment is just around the corner. If I can solve this problem, if I can earn more money, if I can improve my health, if I can reach this goal, if I can finally get everything under control, then peace will arrive. But look carefully at your own experience. How many goals have you already achieved? How many challenges have you already overcome? How many things that once seemed essential eventually lost their importance? Life keeps teaching the same lesson. External circumstances can improve your comfort, but they cannot provide lasting peace. Only awareness can do that. The reason is simple. Everything external changes, money changes, careers change, relationships change, the body changes. Society changes. Even your preferences change. Anything that depends entirely on changing conditions can never provide permanent security. The mind searches for certainty in an uncertain world. That search creates endless anxiety. Awareness offers something different. It does not promise certainty. It reveals peace within uncertainty. This is one of the greatest discoveries a person can make, especially after 50. At this stage of life, many men begin recognizing that control is far more limited than they once imagined. You can make wise decisions. You can care for your body. You can manage your finances responsibly. You can strengthen relationships. You can plan intelligently. But you cannot control everything. Unexpected events will still happen. Life will still surprise you. The future will still remain unknown. The question is no longer how to control life. The question becomes how to live fully despite uncertainty. The answer is presence. Presence removes the psychological burden of trying to manage every possible future. Presence brings attention back to the only place where life actually exists, right here, right now. Notice something. As you read these words, are you lacking anything in this exact moment? The mind may immediately begin listing problems, but those are thoughts. For just a moment, set the thoughts aside. Feel your breathing. Notice the sensations in your body. Notice the fact that awareness itself is present. There is a simple aliveness here, an undeniable sense of beingness. This is what people spend their lives searching for without realizing it. They search outside for what can only be discovered within. This does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means engaging with the world from a different state of consciousness. Instead of reacting unconsciously, You respond consciously, instead of being pulled around by every emotion. You observe emotions with awareness. Instead of believing every fearful thought, you recognize thoughts as temporary mental events. Gradually, a new way of living emerges. Challenges still come, but they no longer define you. Problems still appear, but they no longer consume you. Difficult emotions still arise, but they no longer control you. There is space around everything, and in that space, wisdom naturally appears. Many people ask what enlightenment means. They imagine it is some extraordinary mystical experience. Sometimes profound experiences happen, but often awakening is much simpler. It is the recognition that you are not the voice in your head. You are the awareness that hears the voice. You are not every fear. You are the awareness that notices fear. You are not every thought. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear. This realization may sound subtle, yet it changes the entire structure of suffering, because suffering depends on identification. The mind creates a fearful story. You believe it. The mind creates a negative prediction. You believe it. The mind creates a painful memory. You relive it. Identification keeps the cycle alive. Awareness interrupts the cycle. Awareness says, a thought is appearing. Awareness says, an emotion is moving through. Awareness says, this experience is here right now. Nothing more, nothing less. There is tremendous freedom in this simplicity. For many men, this becomes one of the greatest gifts of later life. The desire to constantly prove oneself begins fading. The need for external validation weakens. The endless pursuit of more starts losing its grip. In its place comes appreciation, gratitude, presence, wisdom. You begin valuing things that once seemed ordinary: a peaceful morning, a conversation with family, a healthy meal, a walk outside, a quiet evening, a deep breath. Moments that were once overlooked become precious, not because they changed, because your awareness changed. Life becomes richer when it is experienced directly. Many people rush through their days, as though they are trying to reach some future destination. Then suddenly decades have passed. They wonder where the time went. The truth is that life was happening all along. The mind was simply elsewhere. This is why presence is so powerful. It allows you to actually live the life that is already here. Not the imagined future. Not the remembered past, this moment. And when enough moments are lived consciously, a remarkable transformation occurs. You stop treating peace as a future achievement. You stop treating happiness as a reward. You stop treating fulfillment as something outside yourself. Instead, you discover that what you were seeking has always existed beneath the surface of thought. The peace was always here. The stillness was always here. The awareness was always here. Only attention was elsewhere. This realization does not remove every challenge from life. It does something far more valuable. It changes your relationship with every challenge. You begin meeting life with openness rather than resistance, with clarity rather than confusion, with presence rather than fear, and little by little, suffering loses its foundation. Not because life became perfect, but because you finally stopped asking life to be something other than what it is. You discovered that beneath every thought, beneath every fear, beneath every story, there is a quiet awareness that has been with you from the beginning. It was there when you were young, it is here now. And it will remain present through every chapter that follows. The moment you truly recognize this, not merely as an idea, but as a living reality, you discover a freedom that circumstances cannot take away. And that freedom is the end of unnecessary suffering, not someday, not in the future, but now.